If you were here a couple of weeks ago for the Paws of Stars release and discussion, this type of video will be very familiar to you, but today we are discussing something unrelated to my long-running story. It is a very special day. The 20th anniversary of Warriors, or in other words, precisely 20 years since Into the Wild was released. And there has been a huge project in the works for several months to commemorate the occasion. The Warriors Big Bang project, created and managed by aviator Zorark, links for them in the description below, is a massive collaboration between a couple hundred artists and writers to make several unique and individual projects, either alone or in collaboration with other members of the project, all of which are being released on this day for the anniversary celebration. The link to all of this is down below, and I encourage you to take a look at everything that has come out today, and all of the people who have been working very hard on it. There's a lot of tremendous love and talent among the various teams, so I know I will be having some fun looking through all of it myself by the time this video is released. Also, I'll just leave one more reminder to please check out AV, as putting this project together and doing their own work for it was a truly astonishing amount of work, and they deserve a whole lot of credit. For my part, though, I teamed up with two wonderful artists, Peta and Lupa, whose links are of course also below, and together we created a whole new short story with accompanying art, one we have titled Tempest Rift. It is much shorter than the Paws of Stars books I've put out before, only 8 chapters, and it works outside of the Paws of Stars continuity, starting over with what would be canon at the end of the Power of 3 arc. Tempest Rift takes place in the 6-month gap between Sunrise, the last book in Power of 3, and The Fourth Apprentice, the first book in Omen of the Stars, and it centers on WindClan's experiences in that period. Aside from the obvious fallout of Hollyleaf's announcement that Crowfeather was the true father of her and her brothers, and the leading up to Breezepelt being a fully committed Dark Forest trainee by the end, 5 different WindClan cats all died or disappeared in this time period, often without explanation. And tension was obviously building enough for some of the cats to come on as future trainees in the Dark Forest. We actually had a lot more to work with than it first seemed, but I became especially inspired when we started looking into the family and friend relationships across the clan. Many of you may be aware at this point of how little I care for One Star's confession or the familial retcons it decided to add in. Once again, retconning the first arc in ways that muddle or contradict it, and creating some very odd relationship implications all over the place. Well, we started work on Tempest Rift before that book came out, and even some of the relationships that had been implied at that point were ones I actively wanted to avoid if I was going to be writing a story about this clan, which left me with no possible reasonable choice except to write an entire clan connections chart covering everyone's parents, grandparents, kits, grandkits, siblings, mentors, apprentices, and friends. After all, with such a background clan, most of that information was unknown or sporadic at best for the majority of our soon-to-be cast. I'll list a few of the most relevant and important changes here. First, One Star's only mate was Smoke, and they actually had both Darktail and Heathertail, who were separated with one given to each parent when One Whisker left the forest with the clans. That said, Heathertail doesn't know her mother, and it isn't relevant to this story. But with Smoke as One Star's only mate, Whitetail is finally freed up to date someone who isn't her former mentor. And I chose for her and Owl Whisker to get together, and be the parents of Emberfoot and Kestrelflight, littermates, and later the parents of the only child, Sunstrike. Owl Whisker is also Nightcloud's brother, and both of them were born to loners outside WindClan territory, and adopted into WindClan early on in their lives. And on a completely different note, Sedgewhisker and Swallowtail's third sibling, Thistlepaw, who passed on at some point in this period while their sisters became warriors, is here as Thistleheart, their recently non-binary sibling, because if you don't use your own characters, Aaron, I have license to do with them as I please. There are plenty more tidbits of lore involved here, like Gorsetail and Weaselfur being the parents of Boulderpaw, Whiskerpaw, and Furspaw, and this not being the first mates for either of them. But if you want a complete list, I will actually be including this information right after the allegiances at the link below, since it diverges from what few things we get in canon and becomes very important for the story. But it really is time to move on, because I have somehow managed to talk about this story for this long without mentioning who the protagonists are, which is an absolute crime, because they are easily the cats I and my teammates put more thought and work into than anyone else. The point of view characters are Owlwhisker and Sunstrike, one a strong senior warrior and the other the youngest warrior in the clan, and both of them bound in the relationship of a father and daughter who don't always have the same view on things. Owlwhisker was born outside the clans and committed to upholding and becoming part of clan traditions since he arrived, especially given that he was coming into a clan just beginning to move past their exile from Broken Star and reliance on the other clans, while also dealing with the destruction of their territory by Two Legs. While Sunstrike was born into the clans when they were already known for their aggression and rocky start around the lake, coming into her apprenticeship just as the lake-spanning eclipse battle arrived. Sunstrike, looking on the rising tension with fresh eyes, finds clan life to be cloying and more often finds camaraderie around other young and open-minded warriors in the other clans, as opposed to her own clanmates. Owlwhisker, just coming off his sister's marriage being disgraced by a revelation from ThunderClan and how small WindClan is getting now in comparison to the other clans, is more convinced than ever that WindClan must stick to its own and protect itself. Of course, these two cats clash rather often, especially now, but they are still a family and there's still a part of each of them, whether or not it's always at the front of their minds, that loves the other and wants them to be close again. We'll just have to see if they manage to come to a compromise in their values, or if they bring other cats into their whirlwind argument. Though I will remind you, since this is a bridge between two canon arcs, that Sunstrike was left with enough motivation to become a Dark Forest trainee in Omen of the Stars. Their conflict aside, though, my best description of the story is just a series of slice-of-life adventures, usually with one chapter in each moon to see the general progression of WindClan as time inches closer to Dovepaw and Ivypaw's apprenticeship. There are stories of sweet old couples, siblings bonding, friendships, or even more, with cats across borders, and trials to understand the apprentice you are teaching, even if they experience the world in a wholly different way than you do. Some experiences elicit grief, fear, anger, or love, but all of it is designed to show some of WindClan's daily life in this tumultuous period of time. For the artist's part, along with, of course, designing all of these characters, accompanying each chapter is a beautiful illustration by either Peta or Lupa, which depicts a moment they chose from the chapter, and the quote of that moment below. Here is an example by each of them, but I'll leave the others for you to see when you read the story, if you choose to. And a secondary reminder to please check both of them out because they are fantastic artists and wholly worthy of your attention for a time. To avoid many spoilers, I'll stop talking about the specifics at this point, but it is something I encourage you to read and take a look at if it piques your interest, along with all of the other projects coming out today in AV's Big Bang collaboration. Having seen what everyone has been working on, I am sure you won't be disappointed. As always, thank you for engaging with my content, and a very happy 20th Warriors anniversary to all.